I'm Vinny Politan. Great to have you with us tonight as we take a look at all the big stories in our system of justice. And two big ones tonight. Let's begin with what's happening in Idaho in the case of Lori Vallow Daybell, the so-called Doomsday Cult mom, scheduled to be in court this week. Last time she was supposed to be in court, she didn't want to appear. This time, she will have to show up for her arraignment. Also, her husband, Chad, the Doomsday Prophet, he wants to have the case moved out of Fremont County, Idaho, to some other place in the state. He doesn't think he can get a fair and impartial trial. Take a look at some of the words that were submitted by his attorneys, okay? Because a fair and impartial trial cannot be had in Fremont County, counsel for the defendant requests oral argument on this motion. Further, defendant requests a briefing schedule to allow both parties to submit to the court their memorandum, evidence, and potential witnesses on this motion. Defendant respectfully requests a hearing date on this motion. And this is always huge, right? You know, a big part of trying a case is picking that jury. Who are those 12 people going to be? And first you've got to decide where they're going to be from. Now, the default is supposed to be where the crime took place or the alleged crime took place. But here, as you can see, Chad Daybell doesn't think that the folks, his neighbors, his fellow LDS members, will be fair and impartial in judging him and in judging the evidence. So this is a big moment. This is a big moment in the case. Let's bring in our team of legal journalists. With me tonight, Chanley Painter, CourtTV legal correspondent, Ted Rowlands, CourtTV anchor, and special contributor to CourtTV, Ashley Banfield. Great to have everyone here. Chanley, I'll start with you because you've been there. I haven't been there. Someday I'd like to get out to Idaho, hopefully during one of these trials. But how pervasive was the talk? How pervasive were the opinions? I mean, spending time out there, I know it's a small town, but is it that small that you can't find 12 people?
You know, that's a great question. I've been out there a couple of times. I do hope you get to come. It's a beautiful part of the state in East Idaho. But yes, everywhere we went, there was sort of a constant reminder of Tylee and JJ. You can't drive down the road in Rexburg, Idaho without seeing a blue or white ribbon hanging somewhere, a poster or a picture or a sign that says justice for Tylee and JJ. Even if you go up to Fremont County where this case is supposed to take place, when we were there during the preliminary hearing, there were posters across the street from the courthouse that said forever in our hearts with Tylee and JJ's pictures on them. It's pervasive, like you said, everywhere you go. And during the visits to East Idaho, we've spoken to a lot of community members there about this case, and they seem to agree that a change of venue motion would be appropriate. In fact, we spoke to a former prosecutor in Fremont County, Lynn Hosner, about the issue. Let's listen to what he had to say.
Most defense attorneys are concerned about the jury coming with preconceived ideas and notions as to guilt and innocence. This case has had a lot of publicity. The wife of the defendant was well known in the area, and you know, there's been memorials for the children and a lot of publications. So any defense attorney worth his salt would want to move the case someplace where nobody knew any of the parties or had ever heard about the case. I don't know where you'd find that in Idaho. I'd probably just want to move it to Timbuktu.
This is a case that has made headlines around the world. And like he mentioned, not just because of pretrial publicity, but another ground for the defense here, Vinny, is how well known the Daybell family is in the area. Extended family of 5 children known in the area. It's a small town. Word travels fast. So Mr. Hosner there mentioned a couple of other options, including northern Idaho. He says it's quite rural. Maybe there's some people in northern Idaho who haven't made up their mind about this case, but also Boise, the capital, would be a more diverse jury pool if the judge so chooses to move it there.
You know what's interesting here, Ashley, is that in the motion they're saying allow us to provide some memorandum or some evidence. I'm a I'm a big proponent of evidence, okay? We can sit here and say, oh, we can't get a fair trial, but show me some proof that you can't get a fair trial. To me, the proof comes when you try to actually pick a jury and you go through the process and you're like, okay, we can't do it. But to prove you can't do it without trying to do it?
Well, I think the evidence will come in via a DVD or some kind of electronic file of every Dateline episode and 2020 episode and every night of Court TV, not to mention the interwebs, because this story is all over the place. And so, I mean, if you want the evidence that people are consuming this trial, there's plenty of media on this trial. But I always come back to this issue of finding a jury for OJ. If you can find a jury for OJ Simpson, you can find a jury for anyone. In fact, I have yet in my 25 years of living in the United States of America to hear of a case where we couldn't pick a jury because people knew too much about the case. I'm far more interested in what Chanley just said about the families, about the Daybell and Vallow folks being known, and mostly Daybells being known because of family connections. Now that makes it way more difficult to be fair and impartial than just hearing stuff about them. And I hate to say it, and I will say it, Casey Anthony, everybody had heard about that case. Everybody, every single person who was up there in voir dire had heard about it. And then they had to answer whether they could be fair and impartial. And many people did.
Absolutely. Ted, let's be honest. What criminal defense attorneys are doing is they're always looking for a better jury for them, not necessarily a fair and impartial. I mean, they're basically saying, we can't try it here because there's so many reasons and people just hate our guy, or there's a perception. And let's go somewhere where someone might not think he's that wacky, someplace where he might not think he's that outrageous. And that's based upon what the evidence will be, not some preconceived notion. They're shopping for a jury that will better receive their theory, their evidence, than being fair and impartial. Because you can find 12 anywhere, Ted.
Yeah, they're looking for some non-Mormons. And let's face it, the Mormon juror is not going to be too appreciative of Chad Daybell and the way he has diverted from the Mormon religion with his zombie talk. And in the end of the day, 2 dead children in his backyard, and the whole country is making the Mormon faith a laughingstock. He can't get a fair trial in that community because it's full of Mormons. I think they have a valid argument. Get it out, get it to Boise. It is a unique situation here. It's such a small town, such a small area, and it has such a high concentration of Mormons. I'm not saying that Mormons are any more attached to their religion than anyone else, but if you had if you have a huge concentration of people that are all in the same religion, and 2 of your former members of your religion were practicing something that wasn't your religion, and the country is laughing at your religion, that's a big deal.
Don't they always want a jury of their peers? Chanley, that's who their peers are, right? That's what they theoretically want. But Chanley, tell us about the LDS effect and how that is so interwoven in this case, the people, the community.
It could be, like Ted said, a big deal, because it is true that in East Idaho, the majority of the population belong to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. In fact, I looked up some statistics today from the website of the LDS Church. 1 out of every 4 citizens in the state of Idaho is a Mormon. And when you get to East Idaho, it's even more so. In fact, just look back at the memo that Lori Vallow Daybell's attorney wrote a couple of weeks ago, Mark Means. He wrote this rebuffing a letter from the LDS Church, which was a reminder to all the members that before they become involved in a criminal or a court case, that they have to speak to the church first. Well, he wrote a heated 6-page memo in response to that. And in that, he claims from his research that Fremont County, where this case is supposed to take place, is 68% Mormon. Now, the neighboring county, Madison County, where BYU Idaho is 98% Mormon. And recently we spoke to a jury consultant about these very issues. Let's take a listen.
Because there is extensive continuing media coverage in a very small county like Fremont County, what happens is the risk of exposure is obviously greatly increased. Whether it's Madison County or Fremont County, there's going to be that bias. Now, a judge could certainly look at the fact that Madison County is basically 3 times larger than Fremont County. So the likelihood that you could get a fair and impartial juror may be slightly better in Madison County, but that's ultimately, I think, what a judge would be looking at in either one of their cases.
While there are some population differences between Fremont and Madison County, Vinny, it used to be all one county. It used to be only Fremont County until 1914, and really the courthouses are only 20 minutes apart. So it seems as though the defense, even though it's just asking to move out of Fremont County, it also may need to argue Madison County isn't any better.
Ashley, here's where I have a problem with this process is blanket sweeping thing. Mormons can't. When we have voir dire, I think when you translate it literally means to speak the truth. Do we think that God-fearing Mormons are going to come into a courthouse and lie? Or are they going to tell the truth that, hey, listen, I can't be fair and impartial? I mean, to me, you would want all Mormons there because I believe they will tell the truth inside the courtroom and inside the courthouse. And if they can't be fair and impartial, they will let the jury know. They'll let the lawyers know. They're not going to get in there and lie.
No, but listen, when I heard one of the witnesses, Melanie Gibb, say that she was sleeping in a separate bedroom than her boyfriend when she had a visit with Lori, and Lori, on the other hand, was smooching on Chad while his wife was still alive, I tend to think that engenders sort of an ugliness among fellow LDS members, and that might taint how they see Lori and Chad. What I'm super fascinated by, though, is the law in this country says you can't strike a juror for cause or for your peremptory choices based on your sex or your race or your religion. So even though it factors in, we all know it, it's in our gut, we see what's going on, I'm not sure what the remedy is there. Even if you go to Boise, you can probably ask it, I'm thinking, on a questionnaire, but you can't strike because of it.
Yeah. Chanley, Thursday is the big day, right? Lori Vallow back in court. She has to appear.
She has to appear. It will be a short hearing via Zoom. She'll appear from the Madison County Women's Detention Center where she's being held for an arraignment, much like we saw from Chad Daybell a couple of weeks ago. She'll enter a guilty or not guilty plea, and if it's not guilty, we'll have a jury trial set.
All right. Thank you so much. All right, everyone.